let's get back to basics, shall we? You know, it's one of those things when you first get started with oils or you're considering using oils, it looks kind of overwhelming, doesn't it? I mean, over 200 different single oils and blends. And what's the difference between a single oil and a blend? It's so easy to get overwhelmed and feel like you don't know which way is up. So we're taking it back to basics. Let's go. I think first off, I need to tell you my personal story and what led me down this little oily pathway in the first place. So if you knew me in my early 20s, I was a fast food junkie. I lived off of fast food. I work in healthcare. I have been an MRI tech for 11 years. I did X-ray for 6 years before that. X-ray school was 2 years. I graduated right before I turned 20 from X-ray school and then jumped straight into working at a hospital. So I've been working in the healthcare field for almost 20 years. Basically, if you've ever worked in the healthcare industry, you know that it's generally 12-hour shifts and it's a lot of go, go, go. You don't always get to eat healthy because you might be grabbing, a microwave dinner or, a granola bar between patients, and you just kind of work really hard. As I continued along that path, eventually God blessed us with 2 beautiful daughters. My husband and I met in 2007, had to think back there, and we got married in August of 2008. My husband is an airline pilot. His name is Matt. He's 6'9", so that is the thing that most people notice about him first. I always like to say he folds for travel. So let's back up a bit in my story. A part of our journey was actually that the first time that we got pregnant, we didn't get to meet that baby. And so we have actually 2 heavenly babies. And I don't know what I was having because I lost those babies at probably around 10 or so weeks in the pregnancy before you could really determine what you were having. Endocrine disruption and hormone problems are really, really becoming prevalent these days. You start to see kids going into puberty at much earlier ages than maybe you or I did, or especially our parents and grandparents. And so that was something when I started thinking about more natural things that really hit home for me because of our pregnancy losses. Now, another thing that people don't really know about me is for years, I actually suffered from migraines. I didn't have the freight train hitting you in the head type migraines. I had the all of a sudden I can't see. I would start with a pinpoint of light in the center of my vision, and I might be reading something on the computer and all of a sudden it's like, why can't I read that anymore? And then eventually it would blow out like a kaleidoscope in my vision. And that started in about my mid-20s. So the one thing that I tried lots of things. I mean, I fortunately never did a migraine medication. It was never that bad. But I would say anywhere from 1 to 3 times a month, I would just suddenly lose my vision for sometimes 45 minutes. The most scary time that this happened to me was I was standing in my mom's kitchen and we were chatting, and all of a sudden nothing but gibberish started coming out of my mouth. Now, I told you I've worked in medical imaging. I am an MRI tech, and I actually work at a neuro center, which means we deal with a lot of stroke patients. So I was actually working at this stroke center when all of a sudden my words wouldn't come out properly. That's one of the signs that you're having a stroke. So my mom, who is a nurse, was looking at me very concerned, and for me, I like to diffuse things with humor. I kind of kept laughing. And so fortunately, after about 15 or 20 minutes, that passed and I was able to speak again. But what a wake-up call. Now, as I've continued on my journey, I, started to get into essential oils probably about 7 or 8 years ago, but I had not found Young Living yet. I was buying my oils online, and one thing that I do know is the oils that I was buying, they were not organic. So I don't know that they were necessarily therapeutic grade like they claim to be, because there's really no governmental authoritative body that oversees essential oil production. So just because something says something on the label, I learned the hard way that you really have to vet your sources. One thing as a part of my personal testimony and why I switched to Young Living products was I wanted something more natural and more healthy for my family. So between the miscarriages and then all of the migraines, and then even beyond that, I have an autoimmune disorder called psoriasis. I'm sure you've heard of it, but get scaly patches on my skin. Super fun, super sexy, right? Everyone wants to be one big flake. So that was one thing that I had happen to me as well, is anytime I would be breastfeeding my children, when your body goes from that hormone change after your breast milk is established around 4 months after you've had the baby, my skin would flare terribly. So with Abby, my almost 8-year-old, it flared all over my face. And then with Grace, it flared all on the back of my neck. And I looked like a burn victim. Check out this picture. It's not what you want your neck to look like. And it would be itchy and miserable and all of these things. So I wanted a better way. When you go to the doctor, sometimes they don't always have the right medicine that's going to work for you because each person is different. And unfortunately, medicine these days is kind of more of a put them into this system, this chart, this whatever. And so you might go to a doctor and then they refer you to a specialist, and then the specialist will prescribe a medication. And if that medication doesn't work, we try a new medication. But I have seen it in my career many times where eventually a medication doesn't necessarily work for your particular problem, or it's really that you have a body system that broke down somewhere and really needs some extra help. And so that was what I really got interested in. What if we started to infuse essential oils, herbal supplements, and get some of the chemical junk out of our lives so that our body's not having to constantly filter and repair so much damage? And that was what made all the difference for me. I had an epiphany aha moment about 3 or so months ago. I've been using Young Living for about 3 years now. And even though I was using another essential oil brand before, I just realized that it was when I switched to only Young Living products in my home and didn't buy any more of the chemical-filled junk from online or the grocery store, I haven't had a migraine. I have not had a migraine in the 3 years that I've been doing Young Living. Now that was my wake-up call. So if you want to keep hearing about all the things that Young Living can do for you, how the system works, and how you can get the greatest benefit out of it yourself, stick around, watch the next video.